Most people don't fail because of a lack of talent, resources, or opportunities. They fail because their mind has become their greatest enemy. Negative thinking whispers, "You can't do it. You're not enough. It will never work." And if you listen long enough, those thoughts will build walls. Every battle you will ever face in life begins not in your circumstances, not in your environment, not even in your relationships, but in your mind. The mind is the central place where victories are won and defeats are accepted. Negative thinking does not come from the outside. It is birthed inside, where your thoughts are shaped, where your beliefs are formed, and where your perspective on life is determined. If you look closely at the direction of your life, you will discover that it always follows the dominant thoughts you entertain. Your future is a direct reflection of what you allow to live in your mind. The challenge with negative thinking is that it disguises itself as truth. It whispers to you that you are not good enough, that you don't have what it takes, that failure is inevitable. And if you allow these thoughts to linger, they begin to take root, forming strongholds that dictate your decisions. You may have all the skills, talents, and opportunities available, but if your mind has been conquered by negativity, you will sabotage yourself before you even begin. That is why the mind is the greatest battlefield of all. It is not what happens to you that destroys you. It is how you interpret what happens that determines your strength or your downfall. Think about it. Two people can face the exact same circumstance, yet one rises above it while the other collapses under its weight. What makes the difference? The battle in the mind. One person chooses to see possibility, the other sees impossibility. One focuses on opportunity, the other focuses on obstacles. It is not the external challenge that defines them, but the internal conversation they have with themselves. The moment you recognize that your thoughts carry the power to build or destroy, you will begin to understand why the mind must be guarded, why it must be disciplined, and why you cannot afford to let negative thinking dominate you. When negative thoughts flood your mind, they do more than just affect how you feel in the moment. They begin to alter your decisions, your behavior, and ultimately your destiny. A thought that tells you you are not capable will stop you from even trying. A thought that says it's too late will prevent you from beginning. A thought that whispers no one believes in you will make you withdraw and hide your gift. Over time, these small thoughts grow into patterns, and patterns become your life. This is why people live trapped in cycles of mediocrity, not because they lack potential, but because their mind has been programmed to accept limitations that were never meant to define them. You must begin to treat your mind as sacred ground. The battlefield must be defended. Just like an army guards the borders of its nation to prevent an invasion, you must guard the borders of your mind to prevent destructive thoughts from taking root. Every day your mind is under attack. Every day there are voices from media, from society, from your past, from your fears, trying to plant seeds of doubt, insecurity, and failure. And if you are not conscious, those seeds will take root without you even realizing it. The battle is not one that ends in a single moment. It is a continuous war. Winning requires vigilance. But here is the truth: the mind can be trained. Just as a soldier learns discipline in battle, you can discipline your thoughts. It begins with awareness. You must learn to recognize when a thought is not aligned with your destiny. When a thought comes that tells you that you cannot succeed, you must immediately challenge it. Ask yourself, is this thought lifting me toward my purpose or pulling me away from it? If it is pulling you away, it does not belong in your mind. The moment you learn to identify and reject negative thoughts, you take the first step in winning the war within. Your life will never rise higher than your thoughts. If you want to change your reality, you must first change what dominates your mind. That is why great achievers throughout history were not merely people of talent. They were people of disciplined thinking. They learned to conquer themselves before they conquered the world. They understood that the mind could either be their greatest ally or their most dangerous enemy. And for many people, the tragedy is not that they lost to circumstances, but that they lost to themselves because they surrendered their mind to negativity. The mind is the battlefield, and the greatest victory you will ever achieve is not in money, not in fame, not in recognition, but in mastering the inner war. If you win in your thoughts, you will win in your life. If you lose in your thoughts, no amount of external success will ever satisfy you, because the inner battle was never conquered. Would you like me to move on and expand Keynote 2 into 700 words in the same style, keeping the flow continuous? What you say to yourself matters more than what anyone else will ever say to you. The words you speak to your own heart shape your confidence, your outlook, and ultimately your destiny. You can have the whole world cheering for you, but if your inner voice keeps tearing you down, you will live defeated. On the other hand, you can have the world against you, yet if your self-talk is strong, hopeful, and grounded in truth, you will rise above every opposition. The voice you hear the most is your own, and that is why the power of self-talk cannot be underestimated. Negative thinking does not always come in the form of loud, obvious attacks. Often, it shows up as subtle whispers, repeated over and over until you begin to accept them as facts. Words like, I can't, I'm not smart enough, I always fail, I will never change. These phrases, when rehearsed in the privacy of your mind, carve deep grooves in your belief system. Before long, you are no longer just thinking them, you are living them. A person who constantly says, I'm not worthy, begins to make decisions that align with that belief. They settle for less, they stop reaching for more, and their potential becomes locked away by the prison of their own words. Your self-talk becomes your prophecy. If you tell yourself you are weak, you will begin to behave in ways that reinforce weakness. If you tell yourself you are capable, you will find strength to attempt what others think is impossible. Every time you speak to yourself, you are either reinforcing a lie or affirming the truth. This is why it is not enough to silence negative thoughts. You must replace them with words of power. The human mind was never designed to remain empty. If you remove one thought, another must take its place. And if you do not fill your mind with words that align with your destiny, negativity will return stronger than before. Think of a child who is encouraged daily, told that they are intelligent, creative, and full of potential. That child grows up with a sense of confidence and boldness. Now compare that with a child constantly told they are worthless, slow, or incapable. That child grows up with insecurity, fear, and hesitation. What changed? The words spoken over them shaped the way they spoke to themselves. The same principle applies to you. You may not be able to control everything that others say, but you can control what you allow yourself to repeat. Your internal dialogue is the most consistent voice in your life, and you must train it to speak life, not death. It is also important to recognize that self-talk influences not just how you see yourself, but also how you engage with the world around you. When you speak words of strength to yourself, you approach challenges differently. Instead of saying, I can't handle this, you declare, I will grow through this. Instead of saying, "This is too much for me." You affirm, "I am equipped to figure this out." These words shift your perspective and unlock solutions you would have never seen if you were drowning in defeat. The power of self-talk lies in its ability to change the lens through which you view life. Some of the greatest breakthroughs you will ever experience will not come from outside advice, but from the conversation you learn to have with yourself. There are moments when no one else will be there to remind you of your potential. There will be nights when no crowd is applauding, no mentor is guiding, and no friend is available to encourage you. In those moments, what you tell yourself will either give you the strength to keep moving or the excuse to give up. The world outside may be quiet, but the voice inside must be loud, bold, and filled with truth. What you say to yourself must be intentional. You cannot wait for feelings to dictate your words, because feelings are inconsistent. One day you feel strong, the next day you feel weak. One day you feel inspired, the next day you feel hopeless. But self-talk is not based on feelings, it is based on choice. You must choose to speak words that align with your purpose even when your emotions resist. That is how transformation begins. When you wake up in the morning, your words can set the tone for the entire day. You can say, "Today is going to be a struggle," and watch everything feel heavy. Or you can say, "Today I am walking in strength, wisdom, and clarity," and watch how your energy aligns with that declaration. Self-talk is not empty optimism. It is the discipline of aligning your words with the future you are building. Your life will always bend in the direction of your most consistent declarations. The power of self-talk is that it never stops working. Whether you are aware of it or not, you are constantly in conversation with yourself. The question is not whether you are talking to yourself, but whether you are saying the right things. If you allow your words to be filled with fear, failure, and doubt, you will live out those realities. If you discipline your words to carry faith, strength, and vision, you will rise above every obstacle and unlock a future far greater than what negativity ever told you was possible. Do you want me to go ahead and expand Keynote 3 into 700 words with the same intensity and style? Negative thinking cannot simply be silenced. You cannot just tell yourself, "I won't think this way anymore," and expect change to last. The human mind does not function like a blank slate. It cannot remain empty. Whatever thought you push out must be replaced with another thought. Otherwise, the same negativity will return stronger and more persistent. This is why many people struggle with cycles of discouragement. They try to stop thinking negative thoughts, but because they never replace those lies with empowering truths, the cycle repeats itself. Real transformation begins when you deliberately replace every lie in your mind with truth that aligns with your purpose. A lie is powerful only if you believe it. The tragedy is that most people live their lives enslaved to lies that have disguised themselves as reality. Lies like, "You are not good enough," "You don't deserve success," "You will always be average," "Your past defines you." These thoughts are not truths, but because they are repeated so often, whether through your own inner voice, through past experiences, or through what others have spoken over you, they begin to feel like reality. But reality is not defined by feelings, it is defined by truth. And truth must be chosen and reinforced until it becomes stronger than every lie you have ever believed. Replacing lies with truth requires awareness. You must begin by identifying the negative beliefs that have been running your life. This is not always easy because lies often hide beneath layers of habits and excuses. For example, someone might say, "I'm just not the kind of person who can lead." That statement feels harmless, but at its root, it is a lie that says, I am incapable. Another might say, I've made too many mistakes to succeed. But at its root, that is a lie that says, my past disqualifies me. Until you expose these lies, you will keep living under their control. The first step in killing negative thinking is to shine a light on the false beliefs you have accepted as truth. Once you have identified the lies, you must actively confront them with truth. This is not a passive process. It takes intentional effort and repetition. If your mind has been telling you for years that you are not enough, one positive thought will not erase it. You must feed your mind with new words, new affirmations, and new perspectives every single day. Just as a weak muscle requires consistent training to grow stronger, your mind requires consistent truth to override years of negativity. Over time, the truth you repeat will become louder than the lies you once believed. Replacing lies with truth also means shifting your perspective from what limits you to what empowers you. Instead of focusing on your failures, you must focus on your capacity to learn and grow. Instead of telling yourself, I've failed too many times, declare, every failure is a lesson that prepares me for success. Instead of thinking, I can't compete with others, affirm, I am unique, and what I carry cannot be duplicated. These are not just motivational words. They are weapons against the lies that try to control your destiny. Every truth you declare is like planting a seed, and if you nurture it, it will grow into a mindset that produces strength, confidence, and resilience. One of the reasons lies are so destructive is that they do not only affect how you see yourself, they affect the way you see the world. A person who believes the lie that life is unfair and hopeless will approach every opportunity with suspicion or fear. Even when good things appear, they will find reasons to doubt them because their mind has been trained to expect disappointment. But when you replace that lie with the truth that life is full of possibilities and I have the power to create change, your perspective shifts. Suddenly, the same world that once looked hostile becomes filled with opportunity. The circumstances did not change, your interpretation did. And that interpretation flows directly from the truths or lies you allow to dominate your thoughts. Replacing lies with truth also requires persistence. You must be willing to confront the same lie again and again until it no longer controls you. A lie that has lived in your mind for 10 or 20 years will not disappear overnight. But with every declaration of truth, its grip weakens. You may wake up one morning and hear the old voice whispering, "You can't handle this challenge." In that moment, you must answer back with truth. I am equipped to grow through this. I am capable. I am not limited by fear. The more you practice this replacement process, the more natural it becomes, until eventually the lie no longer even crosses your mind. At the core of replacing lies with truth is the decision to live intentionally. Most people live reactively, simply accepting whatever thoughts come into their mind as if they have no control. But you are not powerless. You have the authority to choose your thoughts. You have the power to reject lies and build your life on truth. Every day you wake up, you are given the choice: will you live under the weight of lies, or will you rise with the strength of truth? That choice will determine not just your mindset, but your future. Would you like me to now expand Keynote 4 into 700 words to complete the script flow? Killing negative thinking is not a one-time event. It is not a decision you make once and then walk away victorious forever. It is a discipline, a daily commitment to train your mind toward focus, strength, and clarity. Just like the body requires consistent exercise to stay healthy and strong, The mind requires consistent attention to remain aligned with positive and empowering thoughts. If you neglect it, negativity will always return because the natural tendency of the mind is to drift toward fear, doubt, and limitations unless it is intentionally directed elsewhere. Discipline of positive focus begins with recognizing that your mind is always consuming. It is taking in information from the conversations you have, the media you watch, the books you read, and the environment you surround yourself with. Every input leaves an imprint. If you feed your mind with negativity all day, you cannot expect to think positively at night. If you consume stories of failure, conflict, and hopelessness, you will unconsciously begin to replay those narratives in your own life. But if you deliberately feed your mind with words of hope, stories of resilience, and images of possibility, you are training your thoughts to rise above fear and self-doubt. What you consistently expose yourself to is shaping the direction of your focus. Positive focus is not about denying reality. It does not mean pretending that pain, challenges, or setbacks do not exist. It means refusing to give them more attention than they deserve. It means shifting your focus away from what drains you and toward what strengthens you. For example, you may have problems at work, financial struggles, or personal disappointments. Those are real. But if you give them constant attention, they will expand in your mind until they dominate your perspective. Discipline of focus teaches you to acknowledge those problems without allowing them to consume your thoughts. Instead, you choose to focus on solutions, on opportunities, and on the bigger picture of your purpose. Building this discipline also requires structure. You cannot hope to have a positive mind if you live without intentional practices. Just as an athlete has a training schedule, you must have mental routines that strengthen your focus. For some, it may mean starting the day with affirmations, declarations, or moments of reflection that set the tone for positivity. For others, it may mean journaling, meditating, or reading materials that challenge and inspire. The key is consistency. A single positive thought is not enough to uproot years of negativity, but repeated daily focus can rewire your mind in ways that transform your entire life. Discipline also requires elimination. To keep your focus positive, you must remove sources of negativity that constantly pollute your mind. This could mean distancing yourself from toxic conversations, limiting your exposure to destructive media, or refusing to participate in environments that feed doubt and fear. You cannot build a strong mind while entertaining voices that undermine your confidence. Every time you allow negativity to dominate your focus, you are undoing the progress you have made. Discipline means being intentional not only about what you add to your mind, but also about what you remove. Another important part of building discipline is persistence. Positive focus will not always come easily. There will be days when your emotions are heavy, when discouragement tries to take over, when fear feels louder than faith. In those moments, discipline is what carries you forward. It is the decision to hold on to empowering thoughts even when your feelings resist. It is the ability to say, I choose to focus on what builds me, not what breaks me. This is not about denying how you feel. It is about choosing not to be ruled by it. Feelings are temporary, but the discipline of positive focus creates lasting strength. This discipline also shapes the way you interpret life. When you train your focus, you learn to see opportunities where others see problems. You see growth where others see failure. You see purpose where others see pain. The same situation that defeats one person becomes fuel for another, and the difference is not in the circumstance, but in the focus of the mind. With discipline, you are teaching yourself to lean toward hope instead of despair, toward action instead of paralysis, toward possibility instead of limitation. Over time, this becomes your natural response because your mind has been conditioned to focus on what uplifts rather than what drags you down. Perhaps the greatest reward of building a discipline of positive focus is that it creates resilience. Life will not always go according to plan. Setbacks are inevitable, disappointments will come, and unexpected challenges will arise. But when your focus has been disciplined, you no longer crumble under the weight of adversity. You have trained your mind to see beyond the present moment. You have developed the strength to endure difficulties without being consumed by them. Instead of being defined by your struggles, you use them as stepping stones toward growth. This resilience does not happen by chance. It is the result of disciplined focus, practiced day after day. A disciplined focus is like a compass for your life. It keeps you aligned with your purpose, even when distractions and negativity try to pull you off course. It directs your energy toward what truly matters and prevents you from wasting time on what drains your potential. Every great achievement, every breakthrough, every moment of lasting success begins with a disciplined mind that refuses to dwell on what is destructive and chooses to focus on what is constructive. The discipline of positive focus is not just a tool for killing negative thinking. It is a way of living that elevates every area of your life. Would you like me to now write the conclusion of the entire script to tie all 4 keynotes together into a powerful closing message? Every journey of transformation begins in the mind. Negative thinking is not a small matter. It is the root that shapes your words, your actions, and your destiny. If you allow it to remain, it will slowly kill your potential before you even take the first step. But if you make the decision to confront it, challenge it, and replace it with truth, you open the door to a life of freedom, clarity, and strength. We have seen that the mind is the battlefield where victory or defeat is decided. It is not your circumstances that define you, but the way you think about them. The thoughts you entertain either lift you higher or chain you lower. And in this battlefield, you cannot afford to be passive. You must guard your thoughts as fiercely as a soldier guards the borders of his nation. We also discovered the undeniable power of self-talk. The words you whisper to yourself every day become the script of your life. You cannot speak defeat and expect victory. You cannot declare weakness and live in strength. What you repeatedly tell yourself becomes your belief, and your belief becomes your reality. This is why you must train your inner voice to align with your purpose, to speak life when everything around you feels like death, and to remind you of your value when the world tries to diminish it. But silencing negativity is not enough. Lies must be replaced with truth. You cannot leave your mind empty. You must fill it with words, ideas, and perspectives that strengthen you. Every lie that says you are not enough must be confronted with the truth that you are capable, worthy, and filled with potential. Every thought that points to your past mistakes must be countered with the truth that your future is not defined by where you have been, but by where you are going. This replacement process is not a one-time event, but a daily choice to uproot lies and plant truth until it grows into the unshakable foundation of your mindset. And finally, we have seen that none of this is possible without discipline. Positive focus does not come naturally, it must be cultivated. It is the result of daily decisions, daily practices, and daily choices to guard what you allow into your mind. Discipline requires eliminating what drags you down, feeding on what lifts you up, and persisting even on the days when negativity tries to return. Over time, this discipline creates resilience, strength, and clarity that no setback can take away. Killing negative thinking is not just about avoiding bad thoughts. It is about building a new way of life. A life where your mind is your greatest ally, not your enemy. A life where your words shape strength instead of weakness. A life where lies are silenced by truth and where your focus is disciplined toward purpose, hope, and victory. The battle is real, but so is the power you carry to win it. Own your destiny. But today, we are going to break those walls. In this message, you will learn how to kill negative thinking before it kills your future.